everyone, welcome to the Movie Section Show. My name is Fariba. I actually woke up very early for this moment because we have just gotten the first trailer for Superman. I'm very intrigued to see what it's gonna be. Now, my whole, my whole journey with the DCU has not been exactly the greatest, especially in the last decade. Let's just say that, I wouldn't say Warner Bros. Exactly, but just the people behind the previous universe has done a really disservice for me, particularly. I mean, aside from maybe Man of Steel being decent enough for me, I think most of the movies have really kind of been very disappointing. And now we're just gonna see how James Gunn can maybe somehow revive this whole DCU universe, because I mean, it's gonna be a lot of work to just revive its reputation. But so far, we've been getting a lot of snippets the last 2 days. The music, we got a poster a couple days ago. And I have to say, the music hits so hard. I was like, oh my god, this reminds me of the Man of Steel, the original Superman. It's like, wow, I really love this kind of song that we have already for the movie. And then just so far, that's just a sneak peek that we've seen so far. It seems really promising. So I'm very curious to see how James Gunn has in mind with his iteration of Superman and what this means and whether or not he would succeed in reviving the DCU. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right down into the first trailer for Superman. Oh boy. I love that score.
Home. Take me home.
Hey, Nick!
Superman.
Oh, hot girl. Oh, that's really iconic. Oh. Okay. There you have it, guys. That was the first trailer for Superman, and I have to say, I will say this: I'm very happy that we're not going back to another origin story of Superman and just going right into kind of this really well-established Superman who has already made his marking into the city, and just seeing how his legacy has been since. And I really do appreciate a lot of new things that we do see in this trailer. Again, we don't know a whole lot of the context because this is a first trailer, so a lot of the first trailers are meant to be that it just gives you a first impression about the first footage, the first preview, giving you a sense of like, what the characters are like, what, it's being set as the stage of like the actual movie, yada yada. So let's get right down into it. And I have to say, I think right now, so far, I have a really good impression about it. Now, has this trailer totally sold me into being like, oh, I'm so freaking excited to see this. Not necessarily. And I think a lot of it is just because I am still holding off on my reservation about the DCU. Like, I don't want to have too much of my hopes up just because I've had my own history with the DCU, and it's just like, it's been a bum after bum, flop after flop with me with the DCU. Now, that's not to say that that's going to be the case with James Gunn's whole revamp of the DCU. Just because, and again, it is James Gunn. He's really good when it comes to his craft, and there's a reason why he's one of the heads for the DCU. I think it's like, DC Studios. And there's a reason why for it, because, I mean, he's shown how he's really capable of taking comic book material and somehow adapting them onto the big screen in a way that's very faithful. We've seen this with Guardians. We've seen this with Peacekeeper. I know we're having Peacekeeper Season 2 coming up. I think that's next year. So who better than to really helm the DCU and revive it than to have James Gunn? I think he's probably one of the most capable person out there to really do this. And I think watching this trailer, I mean, it definitely kind of gives you this sense that, okay, this is how James Gunn's going to revive it. He's not going to go all the way back to the beginning, trying to do this whole origin story of every character, then just to kind of set up like the Avenger style, like the way that we saw with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We all know Superman's origin story. We kind of have an idea of how that works. Although it does seem as though that they're probably still going to jump on the origin story because, Jonathan Kent is supposed to die at some point. Or at least if I remember, like, Jonathan Kent death is what, I guess it kind of becomes a turning point for Superman where he makes that change. So we've seen that countless times, of course. Like, there was, like, you kind of have to have that. What was it? What was that in Spider-Verse? It was crap, I forgot what it was called, but it's not the freaking anchor being. It was like something else. I can't remember right at the moment. My head is like, it's morning, guys. But that being the case, I do like the fact that we're already kind of deep into the story for Superman. We're not going back to origins. Hopefully it's not going back to origins. You can really get the sense of this relationship between him and, oh my god, Lois Lane. There you go. Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnahan, if you haven't seen her from The Marvelous Miss Maisel. So I'm really excited to see her. I think right now, David Corenswet, I think that's gonna be the big question. Like, do we all feel like we think that he's a very good Superman to play Superman, especially to succeed, from Henry Cavill? Because, I mean, let's be real. Henry Cavill was like perfect as Superman. The only reason why that hasn't lasted longer is because of how much they fumbled the whole ball with that. And it's just like, I think right now, I'm gonna be really reserved about it and be like, okay, he seems like a really good candidate as Superman. I'm very surprised how he gives a little bit more of that dorkiness, that shyness of Clark Kent, because I can't even recall if, like, even previous iterations have ever been like that. Especially not with Henry Cavill's. I think Henry Cavill's had, like, a really good, like mix of charm and kind of, not deception, but you can tell he's really reserved, but here you can see a little bit of this dorkiness, this shyness. It's just like, interesting. And I do wonder again if this is part of just him, if this is part of him trying to keep his identity a secret and the fact that he's Superman. Now, one thing that really shocked me was just seeing the reception from the people, like the actual people in the universe. Like, there's one part in the trailer where you see a civilian just throw something at Clark, and it's like, interesting. So this means that there's already this decisiveness from people and their impressions about him, and I would assume a lot of it has to deal with some of the the things that have already happened within the movie. We were seeing a lot of other superheroes. I think we just saw Hawkgirl at one point. I would imagine Supergirl is going to show up at some point. I don't think I saw her in the trailer, so maybe they're holding off until the next one, or maybe even just going to keep that off until the movie. I think there was one other superhero that I can't really recall who it was. And then of course we saw Lex Luther. Nicholas Holt's Lex Luther and him with the bald head. That's gonna be very man, I'm a very unserious person, am I? I'm gonna be very curious to see how that's gonna work out. Again, we only got to see it for maybe 2-3 seconds, so not a whole lot I can say about my impressions about him, although it's like, okay, I really hope that he does really show this villainous side, because I don't think I really see him be super villainous. I think the closest would probably be Peter from The Great. And even then, Peter from The Great kind of evolved in ways. So So I do want to see a little bit more of that pure sinister side of him as Lex Luthor. Because I'm pretty sure he was actually one of the guys, I think he was one of the actors who were also in the running to play Superman, and he ended up playing, so it's like, that's a whole cute, cool thing right there. So I think that's like the same thing that happened with, Thor, with, who was it? It was, Tom Hiddleston, and I think he had auditioned for, Thor, and then he ended up getting Loki, and now we see how that worked out, right? So, I do hope that Nicholas Hoult is really able to give a really good impression of Lex Luthor. Again, I know there's gonna be a whole comparison, especially with the whole Jesse Eisenberg, version. But I don't think you can really get any worse than the Jesse Eisenberg version. So, but again, I think it's a very promising trailer so far. It's really giving a lot of, I think with the visuals that we got, it does give a really good idea of who Superman is. It seems as though that he has really evolved with his relationship with Lois Lane. It does seem as though that this is going to be a movie that might have a lot of flashbacks from the looks of it. So maybe that's going to kind of set up a tone a little bit. I really like how they really set up the beginning of this trailer too. Like, it seems as though that he's been really defeated, like something that, so there's some sort of entity, this really evil entity that somehow has really kind of dragged him. And I think you can get the sense of like what's going on with Superman. Like, this is a very different Superman, where it's like he's not just always known or looked up as the hero, but someone who has been, trying to save humanity, but also you can get the sense of the fatigue, the tiredness, but at the same time, he knows that the fate of the world is in his hands, so he has no other choice but to do this. It seems as though that this is kind of the Superman we're gonna get. Like, he's not just gonna be just this heroic person, right? Like, this pure heroic person. There just seems to be a little bit of this nuance with his story, and how there's gonna be a little bit of this confliction of not just, what's going on in his personal life, but also his professional life, and how people reacting to it. I think, and I feel like the first thing that's coming to my mind is a little bit of like that boys vibe too. It's like how how we're gonna see how the reaction from the people are going to be key to kind of showing who Superman is. And again, just seeing from the trailers, like how people are reacting to this, it's just like, okay, that does seem so that this is going to be a little more of a conflicted Superman who probably has to figure out, like, what he wants to do, what his legacy is going to be. I think at one point this movie was going to be called Superman Legacy, right? So maybe there's a reason why it was almost Superman Legacy. So I feel like that's going to be a key thing to his arc here. But I think right now it's very promising. I love the dog. He's so cute. Oh my god. I'm happy that they brought him, because I'm pretty sure he's in the comics as well. So just to see that connection is great. But I just cannot wait to see the second trailer. I mean, the second trailer is what's going to really be the selling point for it. But right now, I think it's really promising. I think that it does set up a very good idea of what kind of Superman we're getting, what kind of Superman David Corenswet is going to give. I think so far it looks promising, although again, I'm going to keep my reservations just because, again, I'm not super sold yet. But let me just say, that score hits so hard. I love it. I love the score. I think the score is what's really carrying this so much right now, that's what's kind of giving me this vibe. Okay, I think I have some hope. I know, no pun intended, but that's all I have to say about this trailer. Let me know your thoughts, having now seen the first trailer for Superman. What are your impressions now, having seen the first footage? Are you sold on David Corenswet as Superman, or do you think you need a little bit more of a context of who his character is going to be like? What do you think about the first impressions so far about the villains that we got? First impressions of Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. What do you think about the footage that we've seen so far, as well as kind of the differences that we see from here compared to other ones that we've seen before? What are your thoughts about Hawkgirl? I think there was another superhero in there. Your impressions about Clark Kent and kind of this arc that we kind of get the sense of, like the fact that it's going to be a very fatigued, tired Superman. It looks like, we're going to be going very deep into his story. It's not going to be so much focused on his origins per se, but just kind of his legacy from the looks of it. And what do you think you hope to see in the second trailer, and whether or not that, this has really sold you so far, or you need a little bit more to kind of get your hopes back again for the DCU franchise? Let me know your thoughts below. Make sure to like and subscribe.